We're a day after casting these test blocks of Woodcrete, and I want to just point out what they look like at this moment. You can see the color still reflects the fact that there's moisture still in the system. I pulled them out of these molds. Again, these were these molds. And as is expected, there was moisture in the bottom of the mold, and there's still some moisture in the sample. That color will lighten over the next several days. Pretty common. One of the things that, and this is just the first day, so this is not indicative of anything, it's still pretty soft, but it's the surface is hard. I think I probably could have used less binder to add more porosity, but you can still see there's still quite a few voids in there. You can see it's got that shiny surface, very similar to the other samples that I've made, so it took the mold texture quite well. This sample is the unmodified sample. This sample over here is the modified sample. So again, it was modified by treating the wood chips with, oh, don't you start spinning there. My gimbal out of control. It was modified by washing the wood chips in sodium hydroxide and then soaking them in a diluted solution of sodium silicate for about 24 hours. What I noticed yesterday when I checked them about 2 hours after the initial molding process is that the unmodified version actually was setting up faster. So it was hard about I guess it's probably 2 to 3 hours after. Don't remember exactly when I checked, about 2 to 3 hours after. And then the modified sample was still a little soft. It had a little bit of give to it. I don't know if that's because the unmodified sample simply extracted more moisture out of the system, which then caused a more rapid reaction. I don't know. I'm not sure what the reason was for that. It'll be more interesting once I start playing with the physical properties of this to see if there's any difference in how the wood chips have reacted with the binder, but so far I don't really see any. They look and feel about the same to me. As a comparison, this is a sample of potassium silicate geopolymer that I made a few weeks back. You can see, and this was made with just a normal concrete sand aggregate, just general purpose sand aggregate I got from Home Depot. In terms of the density, it's interesting. I calculated the density by filling up, I should say by marking on the edge of this mold where each one of these samples, where the top of that sample was, because I didn't get exactly the same volume for each one. Then I measured the volume of the water to each of those lines as an approximation for the volume, and I calculated the density by dividing the weight. So, for example, this one here, yeah, my scale is a kitchen scale, so it kind of drifts a bit, but somewhere around 608 grams for that sample, and total volume was 430 milliliters for 1.41 grams per milliliter, or grams per cubic centimeter. For the middle sample here, which obviously is quite a bit heavier, it came out to, it weighed 119.7 grams, volume was 520 milliliters, for a total of 1.96 grams per cubic centimeter. And then finally, the modified version, 380 milliliters. Ignore that decimal point. I was writing down liters. Anyway, 380 milliliters and 523.5 grams for that sample, which leads to 1.38 grams per cubic centimeter. Not too far from this one. I'll measure the weight again in a day or two after the moisture further leaves these samples, and I'm not going to do any strength tests, any kind of test on them for at least a few days, because it does take at least a few days for the final strength or close to the final strength to be met. And normally, even with geopolymers, they let the samples cure for 28 days before they do real testing, like using a compressive strength tester. So that is, just show you the side view there. It's kind of interesting. So that is a conclusion on what we have so far for the woodcrete. It's very interesting. I don't know why, but it really reminds me of oatmeal, like oatmeal raisin cookies. So we'll see how this comes up, but you can definitely see it's very different. It's very solid. It's not like a really friable hempcrete product. I've seen some of those that are with a lime-based mortar that are pretty soft. I mean, I know not all of them are going to be that soft, but I've seen some that are pretty soft. So we will revisit this in a few days, and we'll see where things are at.